Polkadot is one of the most exciting and innovative cryptos out there, and despite its recent surge in price, it is still only the 8th largest crypto by market cap behind tokens like Cardano's ADA or XRP. And in this video, I'm going to talk about how you could make a 2,000% return from Polkadot using something known as parachains. That's not a typo or an exaggeration. You genuinely could make a 20x return on investment here. But we'll have to get into the details on how that could actually work. In this video, we're going to be starting with a brief overview of Polkadot and how it works, since it is very unique. Then we're going to talk about Polkadot's new Parachain Auctions, where you can bid on the creation of new blockchains on top of Polkadot. And lastly, I'll talk about some interesting parachain projects that are in the works and how you can buy into them. So hit the like button if you want, and let's start by talking about how Polkadot actually works. So to start off with, we first need to briefly discuss cryptos in general. The first cryptocurrency was Bitcoin, launched way back in 2009 when Satoshi Nakamoto minted block 0 on the chain. It used game theory to invent a whole financial system that didn't rely on a central bank to resolve disputes and keep things running, basically making it so you could easily transact with other people without needing to trust them. After that, you had Ethereum, which was conceived in 2013 by programmer Vitalik Buterin and finally built in 2015 by a team of developers. For this new crypto, in addition to having the Ether token you could transact with, you could also create smart contracts, paving the way for next-generation blockchain tools like decentralized apps or dApps and non-fungible tokens or NFTs. The usefulness of these new smart contracts is why Ethereum is now the second largest cryptocurrency behind Bitcoin and boasts the largest developer community in the entire crypto world. There are other cryptos out there that try to further improve on Ethereum. Some try to make the transactions faster. For example, Cardano takes Ethereum's 20 or 30 transactions per second processing speed and ramps it up to a potential speed of 1 million transactions per second. Others save energy by using a proof of stake model rather than a proof of work model, saving huge amounts of electricity and not requiring giant GPU farms to mine new blocks. Polkadot has both of these features. They can process 1,000 transactions per second, so it's way faster than Ethereum's 30, and they use proof of stake, an improvement that Ethereum themselves say would save around 99.95% of their chain's electricity usage if implemented. But while these improvements are super important and clearly mark Polkadot as part of the next generation of crypto, Polkadot has a much more interesting feature. Polkadot was originally conceived in 2016 by Dr. Gavin Wood when he published the Polkadot white paper laying out his vision for the future of cryptos. He did this after leaving the Ethereum Foundation, where he had actually worked as their chief technology officer. While there, he had expressed frustration with some of the limitations with Ethereum and even Ethereum 2.0.
That Ethereum 2 should be being under development by late 2016, and here we were sitting around in autumn of 2016 and there was absolutely no indication that there was going to be any development, significant at least, on Ethereum 2 for some time. So really we wanted to push forward with that one way or another. Let's embark on something that we think will be complementary to Ethereum 2, a system in parallel that can fulfill things that probably Ethereum 2 is going to be less than optimal at fulfilling.
It took until 4 years later in 2020 that his vision of Polkadot was finally realized. Kind of. While Polkadot does exist today, obviously you can visit their website and buy the token, the defining feature of Polkadot was the ability to run new blockchains on top of the existing Polkadot blockchain. This was a concept known as parachains. In this world, in addition to all the level 1 blockchains or level 2 chains built on top of those, Polkadot would kind of run at a level 0 of the blockchain, allowing other chains built on top of Polkadot to take advantage of the ability to talk to other chains on the network, use their built-in security and scalability, and buy into Polkadot's existing community of developers, which, by the way, is the largest crypto developer community in the world outside of Ethereum, and it's also the fastest growing. It's hard to state just how big of a change this could be, and really the only comparison I can think of is when the internet first came online. Before the internet, you had little siloed community networks like universities, corporations, and governments, but it was not until they could all communicate with each other that the real value that they held was unlocked. Similarly, today, we have siloed crypto communities, but Polkadot could act as the internet of blockchains, connecting them all together. This would fundamentally change the way the world interacts with cryptos, disrupting the entire crypto ecosystem. But I said Gavin Wood has only partly achieved his vision up until now, because as of when I am filming this video, Polkadot has not yet launched the ability to build parachains on their network. But that is all about to change. According to Polkadot's website, their first Parachain auction should start on November 11th, 2021, giving everyone access to a piece of the pie. But fintech, you might say, you've talked about parachains, but what is a parachain auction? Well, Polkadot doesn't want just anyone building on top of their network. You have to be chosen by the community first. They do this using a bidding system, where if I hold Polkadot, I can essentially lend a project my DOT tokens as a vote for them to win the auction. Whoever wins the auction gets to build their parachain. To illustrate exactly how this is going to work, we can pull up Kusama's Parachain Auctions. Kusama is Polkadot's Canary network. It's just an early release of Polkadot for proving out stuff like a bidding system. It's kind of like a test run of Polkadot. Kusama has been running since June 15th to try to prove out the auction functionality prior to the full go live with Polkadot, and it's been a pretty big success. I've talked in my previous videos about how early Kusama users who backed the Moon River blockchain in its Kusama auction were rewarded with Moon River tokens after it won the auction. Those backers saw a huge appreciation in the value of those tokens, up around 10x at the peak. But that is actually more than a 10x return on investment, because those original Kusama auction supporters will eventually receive their original Kusama back as well, once the auction slot ends a little over a year later. In that case, the only cost is the opportunity cost of the tokens going up in value in the meantime. But if you pick your winners carefully, this could return you huge gains without even worrying about the underlying value of Kusama increasing. But now back to Polkadot. Up until now, all the Parachain auctions have been happening on Kusama. But on November 11th, when the first Polkadot auctions start, you'll be able to use your DOT tokens to vote for which projects you think should be added. So here are a few important details to remember. Number 1. If your chosen project wins the auction, you may receive some sort of reward from the winner, and you will eventually get your DOT back. That being said, in a worst case scenario, it could take up to 2 years to receive your tokens back. So there is an opportunity cost to consider if you think you might want to sell your DOT sooner than that. Number 2, the auction uses a randomized end time to try to make them more fair. So if you try to wait for the last minute on a slot, you might not get in. Number 3, how much you make could vary dramatically. With enough luck or skill, you could make 10, 20, or 30x returns. Otherwise, you might make nothing. That's the risk that you face for playing this game. But if you do want a more stable way to make money with Polkadot, you can check out my last video on the blockchain. And number 4, always make sure to keep more than one DOT token in your wallet at a time. Otherwise, you run the risk of that one DOT being burned. Now, I believe the reason Polkadot has risen nearly 70% in value over the last month is because people are starting to buy DOT in preparation for these auctions. I also think this launch is just a massive catalyst in that it proves Polkadot's promise is not just a dream, it's actually happening. At the same time, this could be a buy the rumor, sell the news type situation, where the crypto drops on November 11th once the auctions launch. But I personally was confident enough to add a little more to my Polkadot position this past week. But with Polkadot auctions launching, that begs the next question. What projects are going to be available to bid on? Well, there's this super useful site where we can actually pull up all the active Parachain projects, and that's parachains.info. At the top of this page here, we can see that there are a total of 153 currently active projects, and that's split between Kusama and Polkadot. If we scroll down a little bit on this page here, we can see a list of all the different Parachain projects that are currently active, and you can also see that broken up by either Kusama or Polkadot. You'll also notice on the left side here a bunch of different filters that you can apply. So if you only want to look at certain projects that meet certain specifications, you can do that here. So let's say, for example, I only want to look at parachains that are actually launched. So I turn on the parachain status filter here. Well, now if I go to the Kusama tab, we can see that there are 12 separate parachains right now that are running on top of the Kusama network. But if we go over to the Polkadot tab, the only thing that shows up is this statement project here, which is supposed to be one of the first common good parachains that's going to run on top of Polkadot. And you can see here that you can click on the different parachains to get more information on them. So for statement, for example, we have this whole about section here, and if we go down to the bottom, we can also see the developer activity. Some of the other chains are going to have different information. So if we go back and we turn off all these filters, we can see on this list here that we can also sort by different things. So let's say we wanted to sort by the most number of investors in any parachain that's trying to get onto Polkadot. We can see that there's 38 here for seller network, or there's 32 here for Akala. Now we can also see that for seller here, there aren't any W3F grants. These are grants that the the Web 3.0 Foundation gives out in exchange for tokens meeting certain set milestones. But if we were to scroll down a little more, we can see that ACA here does have W3F grants. In fact, it has 3 of them. Additionally, it also has a public GitHub that we can actually look at, and so this might be a more interesting token to you than the first one. If I were to open this one up, for example, we can see also a bunch of different information on this token. So for example, crowd loans that we could get involved in, how much reward you're going to be rewarded if you participate in that crowd loan. And if we go down all the way to the bottom, we can also see different partners for this token as well as who those 32 investors were. But we can also search for specific parachains that we want to look into. So for example, there's one project that I was reading about called Pulse Network. Pulse Network is trying to decentralize medical information. On this page, we can see that Pulse Network has a fair amount of publicity. It has just over 20,000 Twitter followers, and it has not yet entered the testing or the auction stage, so it's still a relatively early project. If we were to compare this with, say, Karura. If we were to compare this to, say, Karura, this is one of the largest projects out there right now, which has over 91,000 followers on Twitter. And one of the reasons for that is because Karura is actually a running parachain right now on top of Kusama. In fact, it won the 2nd ever slot lease on the Kusama network, and now they're trying to also get onto the Polkadot network as well. We can also see here what kind of crowd loan rewards this one is giving out. So you can see that it's going to give out a reward pool of 11 million tokens, which is 11% of the total tokens that are going to be created. And if you wanted to look up more details on this, you could also click the link to the auction details here. Now this site obviously has way too many parachains for us to walk through all of them on here, but this is a good resource to look into prior to that November 7th date, so you can at least familiarize yourself with what projects are out there and maybe start looking into ones that you find most interesting. So where can you actually participate in these auctions? Well, depending on the project, there could be a few different ways to support it. Some are just going to do a regular ICO or initial coin offering to fund their slot lease. Others might do a public or a private sale, and some might do a crowd loan. Crowd loans let you contribute your tokens to a locked account that the project can use to fund their slot lease. Each specific crowd loan will have its own conditions, but all of them should tell you 2 things. 1, the crowd loan's duration, and 2, the rewards that they're going to offer you. You can contribute to these crowd loans directly on Polkadot's GUI, which is polkadot.js.org. This isn't quite as easy as buying and selling cryptos on something like Coinbase, but you don't need any real technical knowledge to figure it out either. If you don't want to use this, the specific parachain project that you want to support may also have their own dashboard where you can contribute. Just be careful that you actually trust anyone that you're sending your tokens to. Or the last option is to use one of the third-party platforms like Binance. This is probably the easiest and safest option if you have no idea what you're doing, and I'll include an affiliate link to them in the description. Binance is also offering a warm-up bonus right now to get people used to the process of participating in DOT auction slots. So if you're at all nervous about how the process works, you can get in there right now to start playing around before November 11th. So let me know if you'll be buying Polkadot to use in a parachain auction, or if you're just gonna hold it. Also, let me know if there are any parachain projects that you're particularly excited about. Make sure to grab your $25 in free Bitcoin from Voyager when you deposit and trade $100 below. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.